One Monday morning, back in agency land, I was sitting in my office and someone came in, shut the door, collapsed in a chair and started to sob and sob and sob. And what I now know is that he was suffering from burnout, a collapse of physical and emotional energy, brought on by weeks and weeks and weeks of dealing with a relentless client that was calling him and emailing all through the day and all through the night. Now, what's interesting about this current moment is that we're seeing a rise of burnout, even as we're coming out of lockdown. Recent rumours out of Goldman Sachs suggested that between 3 and 6 people on any given team are off with stress or burnout. So I wanted to talk to clinical psychologist Dr. Bill Mitchell, who's author of Time to Breathe, about what he sees as going on here. And he had some really, really important points for us to think about. The first is that relatively small changes to our lifestyle and our routine and the way we live can destabilise us more than we notice.
You know, for some people, physical activity is part of their system of coping with life. Let's say they've got an injury. They can't do it. Within a couple of weeks, they're more depressed. I don't mean clinically. They're just flat and low, and they're not sleeping well, and they're irritable. And that's because they've just lost something in this system. For others, you know, who are in a very connected relationship, that connected relationship is part of how they cope with life. Then they're separated, and within a few weeks, they're more edgy and flat, and their confidence is down and so on. I think there's many things make up this system that we just don't notice. If we're then exposed to circumstances that reduce that system in some way, we're more fragile and more vulnerable.
The second is that destabilisation can quickly slide into a crisis if we allow ourselves to tilt into unhealthy behaviours or let go of the things that were stabilising us previously.
Usually there's a huge drift away from behaviours that you would regard as healthy and balancing. Their diet changes, often they're drinking a bit more to relax, they're not connecting with people. So it's a sort of combination of early signs that things are going wrong, combined with a drift away from balancing activities, and then they're just gradually spiralling into something.
The third is that resilience is a set of skills. It isn't something that's innate to us, so we can't be complacent about this. My mother's previously said to me that she thinks she's somebody who doesn't really suffer from burnout. She's also, perhaps uncoincidentally, somebody who eats enormously healthily, exercises every day and has a great social network. These are things that we can practice and invest time in and be good at.
My view about resilience is that it's not a quality. It's not something that some people have got and others don't. You know, I'm resilient. You are not. I think it's a collection of things we've learned to do. I think it's a collection of skills, and they've kind of organized themselves into a system. And most people aren't aware of the skills because they just kind of see it as something they've got. But I think if you see it as a set of skills, then you'd be curious and protective of it, and you'd be keen to add more skills, and you wouldn't let it drift away.
The next question is who's vulnerable to burnout? And interestingly, it's people with a very high sense of responsibility, people who are very committed to their jobs, and perfectionists.
The people who are more vulnerable to burnout are the ones who really care. They're the ones who are really conscientious. They're committed. They feel responsible. They're the ones who are perfectionistic. They're the ones who take responsibility for things they can't control, like people's well-being or really difficult projects. The ones who care.
That might be you, so have a think about that. The final thing is that for all the great work that organisations can and are doing on this issue, and it really has been a brilliant explosion in the last few years, the one thing that's likely to make a real difference is the role of that manager, something that I needed to know back in those agency days.
I've got some really good examples in the last several months about people who have hugely struggled with the combination, for example, of homeschooling and full-time jobs. And the relationship with the manager has been pivotal on how that person responded. Some managers have really helped that person. They're in the car, heading towards burnout, heading towards depression. Conversation with the manager has really helped to give them permission to see just flexibility and how they could deal with this differently. And they've come up that curve. Others with managers who've just not tuned in. They've just nudged on down to get ill. Then they're off work. Then they're on antidepressants. Then they're going through the whole occupational health process. And then this manager has lost a valuable resource.
Bill is always such a source of wisdom. It's lovely to have him back on the vlog. But if you're still looking for answers, there was a great interview this week with Dr. Martha Beck, who is no less than Oprah Winfrey's life coach. She says that if all else fails, look into the eyes of a dog, and there you will find the truth. Next week, we're going to talk about the single best piece of management advice that I was ever given. See you there. This is your moment to tag any manager or colleague who has helped you steer through the last 12 to 18 months without hitting burnout. Tag them now, you're going to absolutely make their day.